Hello and welcome. Right now, I'm sure even the most casual filmgoer is aware of this current trend in Hollywood. I'm talking about the constant release of remakes, reboots, and sequels. It seems like every week another one is coming out, which, unfortunately for my friends, means at least once a week they have to hear me go on the same rant.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
Recently I was thinking about one remake in particular. I'm talking about the 1991 TV movie, Whatever Happened To, which is a remake of the 1962 classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Very few people are aware that this remake even exists, and I can only imagine what you're thinking. Taking an iconic classic that was nominated for 5 Academy Awards and remaking it into a made-for-TV movie? This must be awful, right? Well, not so fast. Why don't we take a few minutes and give this one a second look? For those of you who don't know anything about the 1962 film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, here's a quick synopsis to catch you up. The film starts out in 1917. Baby Jane Hudson is a major vaudeville star. Jane's older sister Blanche is in the shadows and often neglected. Cut to 1935. Blanche is a major movie star while Jane is finding it difficult to transition into adult roles.
What do you think, Ben?
What's thinking got to do with it, huh? She stinks, doesn't she?
That's when this happens. Now in present day, Blanche is in a wheelchair and is at the mercy of her abusive, unstable sister. To make matters worse, Blanche's old movies are getting a second life on television. This new attention is causing an already unstable Jane to really spiral out of control.
Belvin was very upset. He told me the company had a very bad year and they couldn't have...
No, they didn't. They had a great year. They didn't want to show my film. They were too busy giving a big build-up to that crap you were turning out.
And let's just say things get really twisted. It's worth noting that Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is based off a 1960 novel by Henry Farrell. For the most part, the 1962 film and the book are quite similar. So when I'm talking about the plot points of the 1962 film, you can assume that this goes for the book as well. But what about the remake? In a lot of ways, it's very faithful to the original. Sometimes a little too faithful.
All this time we could have been friends. You mean all these years we could have been friends?
You know, we'll get back to that one. Unfortunately, I do have to admit that the 1991 version does fall victim to many of the tropes that TV movies have. I'm talking about bland cinematography, lack of subtlety, and an obviously low budget. This is really apparent when Blanche is watching her old movies on TV. In the original version, they actually showed an old Joan Crawford film. In this version, instead of showing a classic Vanessa Redgrave film, it's clearly just her in a wig. But for all its shortcomings, at least there's no wink and nod to the original. I really hate it when remakes pull the— oh god. Good time to talk about casting. In both versions, the casting of Blanche and Jane were obvious gimmicks to gain publicity. The original film had Joan Crawford as Blanche and Bette Davis as Baby Jane. Joan and Bette were both Hollywood stars with a tumultuous relationship. Their battles on the set are so legendary that it was just recently turned into a TV show.
I barely touched her.
Did you get it?
The remake stars Vanessa Redgrave as Blanche and Lynn Redgrave as Baby Jane. Both are Hollywood stars, and they are also sisters in real life. The two have always been close despite some obstacles, including both of them nominated for the Best Actress Oscar in 1967, and of course Vanessa's radical politics. Vanessa's outspoken and often controversial political views have always caused trouble. She was even booed at the 1978 Oscars while accepting her Best Supporting Actress award.
And you have refused to be intimidated by the threats of a small bunch of Zionist hoodlums whose behavior...
You're close to your
well,
sister?
We're still sisters, you know.
I've
it's
heard
amazing.
that. I read that once.
You know what happens is, you know, that years go by and we're still sisters. She's a fabulous woman. I often wish she'd operate in the political field under another name. Redgrave does so-and-so, and I get a little of the fallout sometimes. However, politically, we are poles apart. As sisters, we are very, very dear and loving, and she was a remarkable sister to me growing up, and she remains a remarkable sister, and we don't talk politics.
Nevertheless, the two put their differences aside and stayed very close right up until Lynn Redgrave lost her battle with breast cancer in 2010. Both casting choices work, in my opinion. Bette and Joan's chemistry really captured the animosity towards the two characters, while the casting of Lynn and Vanessa captures the chemistry of real sisters.
That was 6 months ago. I looked awful.
You don't look any better now.
And that right there is the biggest difference between these two films. Both films hit similar notes, but Bette Davis's Baby Jane is evil and terrifying, while Lynn Redgrave's Baby Jane is far more sympathetic.
What have you done?
What do you mean?
It's way too short.
No, I think it looks great.
It's awful. It's way too short. What have you done?
You never think I do anything right.
Jane, I'm sorry.
I think this change was made because compared to the 1960s, society has a far better understanding of mental illness. And knowing what we know today, it's kind of interesting to see the traits that Jane had that I think even the creators missed. Was she simply just a spoiled brat, or was there something more?
Leave me alone, I need an ice cream!
Child of mine, everything
Well,
like that.
if you need an ice cream, I guess you better have some. I mean, it's pretty hot and all. But remember, this is the last time this week.
All right, Daddy.
And more notably, when the Hollywood Mucky Mucks are talking about how difficult it was to make a movie starring Jane, it seems like they're describing someone with manic tendencies.
Jane's got her pride. She's a very sensitive girl.
Listen, you're a very sensitive girl. Guzzled her way through 6 cases of scotch and slugged 2 studio cups. Not to mention 1 or 2 other less savory items of publicity before we got that so-called epic in the can.
It's funny to see how the signs are there, but the film implies that the accident is what drove her to madness. The remake, however, tackles this.
A chemical imbalance is very common. And, oh, God, you are so lucky there is something you can take that will help you. Oh, God, you're so lucky there's something you can take to help you. Ah!
It's even tackled in the childhood scenes at the beginning.
I really don't understand her. You know, sometimes she's nice, and then she gets really mean. I think she's crazy. The way she treats everybody, even you and Daddy.
That's why this line bothers me.
You mean all these years we could have been friends?
Their relationship was dysfunctional, no doubt, but until things really spiraled out of control, they had a relationship. In the original, all we ever saw was animosity and fear, but the remake adds a kind of gentleness to the two. At first, even when she does her more vindictive things, it comes off less evil and more like a child seeking revenge through a prank. Now, a better understanding of mental illness isn't the only alteration to this remake to make Jane more sympathetic. In the original, after a night of binge drinking and reminiscing, Jane decides to restart her career and takes out an ad in the paper for a musician to help her. In her warped view of reality, she's still a star.
Maybe you remember me. I'm Baby Jane Hudson.
Oh, sure.
She thinks she has real talent.
I've written a letter to Daddy saying I love you.
In the remake, Jane knows she's a has-been.
You're Baby Jane Hudson.
The manager at a video store happens to recognize her. She mentions she wants to restart her career, but it's clear that it's not much more than a passing thought.
What did you mean about getting your career going again?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it.
He talks her into letting him revive her career, even though it's obviously not a good idea.
There should be love. Love should be there. Ooh, not being scared. Should be love. Ooh, ooh, ooh. There should be you. You should be there. I did sing beautifully when I was very young.
Now, Lynn Redgrave is just acting. In real life, she had a beautiful voice. I know this because I've seen her Weight Watchers commercials from the 80s.
Including chicken, sweet and sour, southern fried or cacciatore, spaghetti, ravioli, and there's ziti macaroni, there's filet or fish or gratin. Oh, now what have I forgotten? Weight Watchers. This is living.
Anywho, it's clear that he is just trying to use her for personal gain. She's not fit to be on stage. She can't even differentiate her hairbrush and the microphone. And of course this doesn't end well. So what can I say? The original is tragic and eerie, while the remake is just tragic and sad. I was not expecting this TV remake to make me as emotional as it did. So, is there a definitive version of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Yes, of course. The definitive version, without a doubt, is the one with Madonna and Courtney Love.
Here, eat your lunch just the way you like it.
But is there a better version between these two? I honestly can't answer that. The cinematography of the original is amazing, and Bette Davis knocks it out of the park, but Lynn Redgrave also does a phenomenal job. And if there's a version that will resonate with me, it's definitely the remake. So there you have it. Every once in a while, a remake does good. So does that mean we should continue with this trend of non-stop remakes, sequels, and reboots? Nah. All it really means is even a broken clock is right twice a day.